So after the very disappointing launch of Hugo Boss Bottled Parfum, I think Annick Menardo has knocked it out of the park with the new Boss Bottled Elixir. So I'm going to let you know all about this new release from Hugo Boss Bottled Elixir, coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. We're talking about Boss Bottled Elixir today. I was able to pick up a bottle on my way from London to Italy from the duty free. I got a really great price for it because they had a sale, and usually fragrances at duty free are not as expensive as they are when you buy fragrances at the department stores and things like that. So I was very cautious with this release because the Boss Bottled Parfum was so disappointing and it was a letdown. First of all, this and the previous release don't smell anything like the original Boss Bottled, which I was a fan of in the mid to late 90s. Really enjoyed that kind of warm, spicy, appley fragrance created by Annick Menardo. But that Parfum was so disappointing, really disappointing for me. Even though it didn't smell anything like the original, just the smell was very disappointing. But here we've got a really great smell, and I feel like Annick Menardo, who has done the original and back for the Parfum and this, unfortunately I haven't kept up if she did any of the other flankers, but here she really did a great job. And then she's kind of gone to creating fragrances that she's kind of very well known for the style of. She does a lot of great woody, smoky, spicy, resinous kind of fragrances, and that's what we've got here with Boss Bottled Elixir. So it's a 2023 launch. I would call this an amber woody fragrance. It is 100 ml for $140 in the States, and of course Annick Menardo has created this along with perfumer Suzy, Helley, and it features notes of patchouli, labdanum, cedarwood, cardamom, frankincense, and vetiver. So it's very dark and smoky, and it's a very masculine offering, I feel like. When I say it's got ambery touches, I feel like it's not necessarily sweet. There's sweetness here, but it's not an uber sweet fragrance, even though it has these ambery touches. It has that labdanum note, and labdanum typically has this kind of a very smoky, pasty, resinous characteristic. But they haven't added vanilla here to kind of intensify the sweetness of the labdanum note. And so because of this, there's minute amounts of sweetness, and it's very woody for me. I think that's pretty much what I'm getting here with the fact that we've got a very dominant patchouli note and also the cedar wood that's in here. So we've got an overdose of woods in here, earthy woods, and then you've got that kind of ambery, resinous, sticky paste-like consistency of the labdanum note, which adds kind of a smoky characteristic to the fragrance, along with the kind of frankincense olibanum note that's in here as well. I feel like frankincense olibanum is very signature for Annick Menardo. One of my favorite perfumers, been a fan of her fragrances since way back in the early 2010s when I first started shooting YouTube videos. And I did a video recently of my favorite fragrances from Annick Menardo. If you haven't caught that video, please go catch it. This was not available at the time, but the original is in that fragrance. And again, original fragrance, Boss Bottled, launched in the late 90s or mid to late 90s, and this are nothing alike. So it's a bit annoying that the houses keep cranking out flankers that smell nothing like the original fragrance, but we've done, or she's got a great fragrance here. She's created a great fragrance for Hugo Boss, and a great flanker, I suppose, to the original Boss Bottled. So the performance on this fragrance is also really out of this world, and it's an elixir after all, so it's really highly concentrated, and it does kind of stick on and stay on. Only thing that's, I think, negative for me about this fragrance, I guess I just wanted a little more sweetness. So in the end, it is uber woody, and then woody fragrances do kind of get boring for me. So if they added a little more ambery, vanillic, like maybe they intensified the ambery qualities here with some sweetness like vanilla, and I think it might have made it a little more interesting. But I guess I would say I'd much rather have Boss Bottled Elixir over Boss Bottled Parfum. And I have a review of the Parfum on the channel. Go catch it if you feel like watching it. But that was a very disappointing offering for me as far as flanker goes to the original Boss Bottled. I think perhaps maybe they should stop creating flankers for this line, because now we've got so many different flankers and many of them have been discontinued anyway. But this is probably a great way to end this collection with an elixir and go on a high note and maybe start something new, a new series of fragrances from Boss, rather than, you know, cranking out flanker after flanker of a very long-standing fragrance called Boss Bottled. So I feel like this is going to be a great offering this coming autumn and winter seasons. The longevity is great. It's very, very masculine, so definitely feels like a male offering, a male fragrance, where every designer fragrance tends to go very sweet. For men, here we've got some sweetness, but it's very, very earthy and woody and spicy, so definitely leans very, very masculine for me, which I quite like here. You know, we're going back to the days of fragrances when you knew when you smell the fragrance for a man, it was going to be very, very masculine. And you smell the fragrance for women, it was going to be very, very feminine. And even though I wouldn't say that a woman cannot wear this fragrance, because in the end, fragrance is fragrance, there's really no gender behind it. But for me, with the kind of notes they're using in this fragrance, it definitely screams on the masculine side because of the notes. But there really is no gender behind fragrances and notes. I just tend to put them here in fragrances because this is definitely kind of very, very woody. And woods I find to be more leaning masculine versus something like flowers, because there's no flowers in here whatsoever. It's mostly woods, the patchouli, the cedar wood, lots of spices, and the vetiver is also, I should say here, it's also part of the woody characteristic. And so lots of woods, spices, and resins here, like the frankincense note. I think this is really, really great fragrance. Last thing I want to say about Boss Bottled Elixir, it doesn't smell like a lot of other men's designer fragrances, whereas Boss Bottled Parfum did. And again, once again, I'll say that it was a very, very disappointing fragrance. Here, we don't have something that smells like other designer fragrances. Sure, you'll find some other fragrances, but it doesn't smell like every other designer fragrances. Over and over again, you go from one fragrance to the other, and there's some kind of a running DNA smelling like one another. With this one, I feel like we've got a very, very original fragrance. Not only is a great creation from Annick Menardo, basically focusing on some of her favorite styles of perfume, using some of her favorite notes and things like that, we've got something that's really, really great, very masculine, very designer, but still not smelling like other fragrances. So I feel like this is going to be a great launch. I think a lot of people will like this. It's definitely smelling great. It's very woody, earthy, spicy, and I think it's going to be great though to wear this autumn and winter months, because winter months I feel like this is going to be great because it does have really, really great legs. It lingers on and clings on and stays on for a long, long time for a designer release. And I enjoy elixirs quite a bit, parfums quite a bit. And I feel like these fragrances now that are coming out with the elixir concentration, some are good, some are bad. Here we've got a really great release from Boss Bottled. And as I was saying, I think this should be the the end of this collection of fragrances. Let's come up with something new, please. End on a high note, because this is really a great offering. And let's look forward to something really, really great next from the house of Hugo Boss. But let me know your thoughts. Have you sampled Hugo Boss Bottled Elixir, or are you going to skip this one? Were you a fan of Boss Bottled Parfum? Did you enjoy that one? Didn't it remind you of a lot of other masculine offerings out there? It was really a disappointing offering, but for me, this one I think definitely deserves to be hyped or bragged about or spoken about, because it's a really great quality offering from perfumer Annick Menardo for Hugo Boss. But do let me know your thoughts on Boss Bottled Elixir, if you've gotten your nose on it, what your thoughts are on it. Have you compared it to the original? Do you get similarities to the original Hugo Boss Bottled with the apple and cinnamon? We don't have that here in this fragrance. Nothing that reminds me of the original. I think this is a brand spanking new fragrance, a new flanker. Just the name is the same. the smell is completely different. But if you get similarities, let me know, put a comment down below. And since I haven't kept up with the other flankers except for the original, and then of course the Parfum, and now this, is there another flanker in the series that does have this kind of a DNA? Did Annick Menardo create the other flankers? Again, I haven't kept up with them. I've been a huge fan of the original, and then I decided to check out the Parfum. Complete letdown, but really, really happy with this latest release. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Hugo Boss Bottled Elixir. Do put a comment down and let me know your thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Parfum, the original, and the Elixir. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please do list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.